Gotta get the broadband lights open. Okay, we're gonna call it to order at 7:01 p.m. This is right for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Okay, Olivia Fajero? Here. Vito Campanelli? Winifred Rodriguez?
Here.
Shannon Johnson?
Here.
Mary Lubisek?
Here.
Sharon Anderson?
Here.
And George Flores.
Here. Okay, we lost communication. Charge, do we have the communication started and before we this?
I do not.
Agenda?
We do not.
Okay. Superintendent's report. Okay, I should have Derek Maglack and Carol Baker on the Google Meet to present plan and kind of an update as to how the school year has begun so far. So, Derek and Carol, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, Board of Education. So to give us an update about the reopening plan for this school year and some update about what is happening throughout our district as we kind of continue with the reopening plan. Dr. Baker and myself will kind of co-present this. Is there, we can see it? Yes? Okay, so one of the things to start off with the reopening plan is the ISB recommendation, and this came down on June 23rd. So with the teachers union in collaboration with all stakeholders, with the teachers and the administrators, we followed what the ISB provided us as a consideration. So the requirement of using personal protective equipment and face coverings, and we have tons of those resources throughout our district. Prohibiting more than 50 individuals in a gathering space. We have signage throughout the entire school, at schools, making sure that we do follow all of those requirements by ISB. Require social distancing to be observed. We have even floor stickers and we have wall stickers to make sure we remind each other of that and the social distancing throughout the school day. Require that schools conduct symptom screening and temperature checks. So all certified staff or all staff have to self-certify from home. And then when they do arrive at the school building, we do take temperatures, the nurses do, and we make sure that everybody's healthy and able to come to the schools. And finally, require an increase in school-wide cleaning and disinfecting. And that's where our custodians kind of do a great job with. So that's the order that kind of ISB provided us, and with the documentation that we had, we now created a criteria for the reopening of the school year. So staff are on site daily, 5 days a week. Self-certification is required, and we expect that and require that of all individuals in all of our buildings, even visitors. Face masks are required throughout the entire building with social distancing. Something different that is different from spring is we require 5 hours of instruction and academic activities. Classroom maximum, and this is when we do shift into a blended approach of capacity of 15 students in an in-person setting. For remote students or remote classes, we have up to 26 students. And this is a little different for K2 versus 3-5 in the middle school. We know that it is more challenging for our K2 students for a teacher to have so many students on a Google Meets or remote setting. So we asked all of our principals to be mindful of that when they created their class assignments and schedules. And then Q1 is fully remote with a phase-in and blended when we feel that it is safe to do so. So there may be changes and reviews as we go through this. The teachers union and the administrators are going to start meeting again, actually this Wednesday, to start planning for what does Q2 look like when we do phase in, or if we're safe to do so. So there will be reviews as we kind of continue with the reopening plan, just to make modifications in case we do have any kind of scenarios that come up during this experience. One of the things that we did for planning for this is The state of Illinois gave all school districts 5 remote learning planning days. So in addition to our 2 institute days, we had 4 remote learning planning days, the 4 days after those institute days. And what that allowed us to do is to go over a great amount of training for our staff, but also allow them to collaborate and plan with one another, because it is a different environment that we are asking teachers to perform in and teach in. So all staff went through a COVID-19 training on how to properly wear PPE equipment through our GNC training. We talked about blended and remote professional learning, social emotional training for our students through our new curriculum that we're implementing this year. But we worked with our teachers of how to support them through a remote setting. Our special education support training with Colleen, our ELL students and training with Ruby. We focused on our priority standards and how we're going to focus on the priority standards for teachers as they start off the school year. And part of that priority standard too, we just got a document that came, it was 170 pages that just came down end of last week. So this morning I actually met with all of our coaches to kind of simplify that for our teachers and connect it to the curriculum. So looking at the priority standards that are recommended by ISB, we're kind of making it simpler and easy to work with for our teachers, because that was one of the considerations that ISB has provided us. We focused on Skyward and gradebook orientations for our new staff, but also any staff who needed a refresher. And because we are implementing Google throughout our district in Google Classroom, we provided tons of resources on Google certification and training and the different levels for training for Google. And then throughout that entire week of last week, we focused on collaboration planning and preparing for student resources and pickup with materials. During remote learning, again, ISB is requiring those 5 hours of instruction or activities. So one of the things we ask teachers is to focus on or create their schedules with 2.5 hours on synchronous learning. That means that teachers are live with their students, but what that doesn't mean is they're live 2.5 hours straight. Because we know, and best practice is, students can't sit in this scenario, or they need to get up and stretch, and so do teachers. So teachers were very mindful, and principals were, when we created schedules of what does that look like? What does 2.5 hours look like with live instruction? And that's spaced out throughout the entire school day. And then we also have 2.5 hours of asynchronous. And that means that students are either doing independent practice or independent reading or video presentations on their own or recorded read alouds. We're using our supplemental resources of Dreambox, Achieve, and SmartAns to reach their gaps and the learning gaps that they may have. And then finally, small group support or instruction. And that's where teachers kind of provide that intervention with small groups during those asynchronous opportunities. So during asynchronous instruction, the teacher is always online, able to support and answer students' questions. So even though the teacher may instruct students to say, now go work in your journal or work on this independent practice or play this game, the teacher's always available online during that time, just like a traditional school or class where the student can come up to a teacher's desk or raise their hand, and that teacher's always available online. And we wanted to make sure that that is priority, just in case students are working on something and they may have a question on. We want to make sure that they have an outlet to get an answer or get support by. So we made sure that that was embedded into our scheduling. Throughout this remote plan, we also created expectations for teachers, parents, students, and administrators. Because we're utilizing Google Classroom and had a great amount of training on that, we wanted teachers to be very comfortable using it, but also making sure we're using it properly or with supports. So making sure that we're using one platform throughout our district so we have the same language, the same support, and the same kind of need throughout our district, so we can create more professional learning opportunities on Google Classroom. Communication with parents, how to take attendance, grading, and collaboration. And that's something different too from springtime, is we are focusing strictly on attendance and our grading policy. So grading policy is like traditional grading in the school setting. It's no longer a P for pass or an I for incomplete. So it will be more traditional. And then finally, collaboration with peers to make sure we are talking and connecting with other classroom teachers and supports to make sure we're providing the best lessons we can. And for parents, we also ask, and as an expectation, is to assist with the logging in or Google Classroom and establish learning environments and routines and monitor assignments. And this is very important because we need students, we want this to be like a regular school day. So it's important that students somewhere in their house have that place that's identified as a learning place at home, where they may have a desk or may have like their Chromebooks aside, just so like they know that that's time for learning. So, and during these times, it may be difficult to do that, but that's kind of one thing that we expect parents to do, is to have that special place in their home where those students have the opportunity to make sure it is just like school and that learning opportunity. For students, is to be prepared, interact with Google Classroom and the Google Meets, and participate. And administrators be available throughout the entire day with checking emails constantly, communicating, monitoring attendance, and attend synchronous lessons to support. Here's an example of a K-5 day. So the expectation is 5 hours throughout the day, but a schedule may look like this. And it is not straight, like you don't have math, ELA, and science right away. Throughout the day, there's breaks that are included. There's lunch that's included. And obviously we want kids to stretch and be able to maybe go outside if the parents are home, whatever it may be. But 5 hours is the content. So a traditional day, we have 5 hours of content, but we also may have lunch and break time and recess. So that additional time of like lunch and recess are addition to the 5 hours that we have of just strictly content. So math may be 90 minutes, but we break it apart where half of that is synchronous, where it's live instruction, and then asynchronous, which students may be doing independently. And this may look different in every classroom. So I know in our K-1-2, some teachers may do like a warm-up, a 10-minute activity, and then have them practice something, and then come back, and then have them do something else, and then maybe wrap up the lesson at the end. So that 45 minutes of synchronous live session may be spread out throughout the 90-minute block. It's not 45 minutes straight. We know our K-1 students have a hard time with that. So, and our teachers are very mindful of that to accommodate. So throughout our day, we have the expectations of teaching the content based on ISB recommendations, but also including in there that SEL component of 20 minutes, which goes over our 5 hours slightly, but we want to make sure that SEL is covered for those social emotional standards being met, especially during this time. And then I'm going to transition this to Dr. Baker, that kind of worked with her team and the teachers union on the scheduling for George Washington Middle School.
Thanks, Derek. Hello, everyone, and good evening. I'm just going to talk to you for a few minutes about the specifics of the schedule at GW, and I just have to applaud our team leaders who spent an awful lot of time at the end of July and the beginning of August really helping us to put together a schedule that we feel is in the best interest of all of our students. So taking a quick glance at the schedule, you can see that we are holding to an 8-period school day. We have a different schedule on Monday than we do on Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday through Friday looks more like a normal school day where we start with advisory period in the morning. And we have classes that are existing all the way until 2:40 in the afternoon. On Monday, we have a shortened schedule in which students attend classes for 25 minutes each, except for first period, because we always think it takes a little bit longer in the morning for kids to get on. So a few extra minutes to allow for kids who are having difficulty in signing on in the morning. And classes on Mondays end at noon. And then the time in the afternoon, teachers are able to schedule small group meetings with students. They are able to do tutoring, have what we would call office hours for both parents and students to reach out to teachers. So just a variety of things are happening on Monday afternoons. So just going a little bit deeper into the schedule, Derek, if you can go to the next slide so that I can talk a little bit about what were the important things in the schedule. So when the team leaders and I met to create this, one of the things that they felt was really important was to try and keep the periods intact so that when we are able to welcome students back to a normal school day, they will feel like they are coming back sort of in a place where they're already used to moving through the day and through 8 periods in a day. So that was important to the team. They also what was really important to our team leaders was to keep our students in the teams that had been established. So our 7th and 8th grade teams, which were established last year when they were in 6th and 7th grade, are intact. Obviously, we have a new 6th grade group of students, but at least the 7th and 8th grade teams are intact and are in the teams that they were in last year, and the team leaders felt that it was really important to continue that process. And again, in the hopes that soon we will be able to bring students back into the building, having students already in the teams is going to make that transition much more easy. We also talked at length about what it's like to have 26 or 28 kids live at the same time when you're trying to teach, and how that is not necessarily conducive to a teacher making a connection with students and being able to hold a class conversation, for example, and having that question answer type of environment. So what we decided to do was to create 2 groups of students. So within a class, a student is either assigned a blue group or a red group, and then they attend a live class. And when I say attend live, that means that the teacher is paying attention to 12 or 13 students every day, not necessarily the entire 26. However, students that are struggling could attend class both days, so 2 days in a row, and actually hear the presentation twice. So teachers feel really good about the ability to be able to connect with a smaller group of students online. And I don't know if any of you have had the experience, but when you've got more than 15 people online, it's almost impossible to try and connect with that many people. So having a smaller group of students allows the kind of teacher-student interaction that we want to see happening, where teachers and students are actually talking to each other and students are actively participating, and teachers have the ability to actually call on students and expect that kind of participation. And again, just to reiterate that students who are not part of the live group can still be on, and they can still listen in if they want to. They are just not part of the teacher interaction for that day and for that period. And these periods are alternating, so that, for example, the blue group is meeting live with the teacher, periods 1, 3, 5, etc., so that they are off the alternate periods and they are not sitting on the Google Meet all day long, period after period. There's an awful lot of research out there that talks about screen fatigue, especially for our younger children, and that it's not healthy for kids to be in front of a screen for 6 or 8 hours all day long. So this allows students to be on with the teacher for a period, and then they're off the next period, and then they're back on with the teacher and off. So they are really participating all day, but they are only forced to be on with teachers every other period. The time on Monday afternoon, the team also felt it was extremely important that teachers have an opportunity to reach out and have those small group tutoring sessions, conversations, additional time to talk to parents, all those things that we know needs to happen. So ideally, on Monday, early in the morning, the teachers are kicking off their lessons for the week. And then on Friday afternoon, the end of the week, teachers are assessing whether or not students have completed all the work for the week and if there is any need for follow-up, so that on Monday afternoon, teachers have that ability to go back to students and say, okay, you're missing the assignment that was due on Friday afternoon. They can call those students in, send them a special invite for a meeting so that they can get together and talk or receive additional tutoring or additional help in some way. So we are excited about having that opportunity to really stay connected with our kids and make sure that we are doing the outreach that we believe we need to do to keep all kids on target. And then, of course, also the ability for parents to check in and make an appointment with the teacher as well. So that about wraps up our schedules and our plans. So far, we have had a very successful first few days, I think, compared to what we thought it might be and what the struggles might be. We're very pleased with how things are going so far, and we know it will still probably take a few days until all students and parents are really accustomed to the schedules and what it's like to help kids be online all day. And we are just excited to continue to work with parents and teachers and hope that we can make this successful for everyone. Both Derek and I are happy to answer any questions that the board might have at this time about our plans.
All right, that sounds great.
Dr. Baker, I have a question.
Go ahead.
It's Winifred, by the way. What happens when their system crashes or goes down? Is that going to be held against the kids? I mean, I've been doing this for the past 3 weeks. It went down for almost a whole day. So you missed a whole day of class.
So we are not holding any sorts of electronic problems against kids at all. We do know that even on the first day of school, we received a notification from one parent that they had been notified for ComEd that they might be out of power for a few hours during the day because ComEd was making some changes, in the electricity in the area. And those things are going to happen. We had a bad storm 2 weeks ago, and there's likely when September comes, we'll probably have a bad storm one of the days, and there's a chance that we'll be out of power. And those are things that we cannot control, but we will not hold those against any student in terms of attendance. As a matter of fact, on the first day of school, there were a couple of parents who called in and just said that they couldn't get things figured out with their kids. And, those of course are excused. We are doing our part in checking with parents early in the morning if we don't see their children logged online. And we know that it is a challenge for everyone to get used to this schedule. So we are being as accommodating as we possibly can be. And our goal is to make sure that students are successful in the learning environment, and putting any pressure or stress on any student or parent is not helping. We know that this environment is a challenge for everyone, and our goal is customer service and trying to help students and parents be as participatory in the learning environment as possible. And we completely understand that these things happen, and we are working with parents to make sure that they receive the work and the instruction so that they can be as successful as possible.
Carol, Derek, how is it that our kids can make up for any lost time due to a glitch in the system or anything like that? How can they make up for time lost? This is George, by the way.
So I will go ahead and speak first about the GW plan. I think that's one of the things that we are most excited about, kind of running the every other day, so that if there's a situation where a student can't get on for first period class on Monday, he can get on that first period class on Tuesday, and he could still see the same lesson and the same instruction happening. So students actually have two opportunities. They are assigned to a particular day, but if they miss that, they can always do it the second day. And on top of that, that's also that time that exists on Monday afternoon. So if we find that there was a large power outage in some place, that Monday afternoon time is going to allow us the opportunity and the flexibility to reach back out to groups of kids who might need some additional help, some assistance, or just to go over a lesson again. And our teachers are ready and confident that they will be able to get students through and continue to work with them in the best interests of all of our kids.
And I'll kind of add on to that as well. For K-5 or all of our students, looking at the priority standards given by ISB, it allows us to focus more on narrow that on the different domains of our standards. So instead of teaching all the standards throughout the year, ISB has provided us which ones are priority, and that's based on state testing. Now, hopefully we don't have state testing this year, but we don't know what's going to happen at the end of the year. But they kind of gave us some guidance of how to prioritize our year just in case that does happen, because we at least want all students to have mastery of those specific standards, so then they're successful and they build on to the next grade level. And the other thing is, during our supplemental resources like that we utilize for like Dreambox or Achieve or SmartyAns, we use that throughout our summer for those learning gaps as well. So in case, or if we see students that are maybe not on as often or have different situations at home, some of the things to kind of reach those priority standards may be through those supplemental activities. And that's where it would happen during that asynchronous learning opportunity, where teachers kind of do the small groups or meet with students individually. And that's kind of why we wanted to make sure that that's embedded into the schedule. So teachers are live and able, just like Dr. Baker said with the middle school, that there's opportunity during those times for teachers to connect with those students to make sure that they are caught up. And also being accommodating. We're asking teachers to be accommodating, all of us, like we all understand. It is a difference, like we built this entire school, online school from scratch, and we're learning as we go. And I think from my experience of seeing some of the great lessons our teachers have done so far, it's amazing of what they've done in 1 week to kind of engage those students. And especially for, like, I was looking more at K1 too, because I know that they struggle logging in, but how they made it so engaging and so interactive with students is pretty amazing to see in person, and having those kids in front of you, like raising their hand and showing their favorite things, or counting, or using a whiteboard to kind of interact with the entire class. So I applaud all the teachers for their hard work in accommodating also and being flexible to this environment of teaching and learning.
Thank you.
I'm so glad, this is Sharon, hi. I'm so glad that we have working on a plan for as the year progresses and how to bring everybody back. But my question is, are we working on a plan if the worst case scenario happens and this entire year is going to end up being remote? I mean, let's hope it doesn't come to that, but who knows what's going to happen come this fall, winter. So are we working on a plan if that's the case, and tweaking what we're currently doing and whatnot, or what?
Yeah, so part of creating this reopening plan is one of the things we had to submit to ISB is a remote learning plan, which is the official document, and it's posted in our reopening plan. It's a link in there. But we've created this and we worked on it during springtime. But one of the reasons when we all came together to establish the reopening plan for our district is we had to revise the remote learning plan. And this is in the case that we do all go back to phase 3 and there's nobody at school and we're all teaching from home. We've gone over that plan to make sure that, is there anything we needed to change or update, or with the new guidance from the state of Illinois, that we created those updates and put it in the remote learning plan. And that's what was submitted to our regional office as a requirement by ISB.
You know, I would also like to add that how positive it has been to have the teachers back in the schools, and because we do have the teachers in school and we are able to communicate with teachers and touch base with teachers, and teachers are able to easier communicate with each other, I feel more confident that if we do at some point in the future have to go to full remote and go back into that phase 3 that Derek was speaking of, that that we are in a good place, and we've established the communication and the connectivity between our staff to make going back to phase 3 successful. So I think that we are in a good place, and I think if we ended up having to be full remote at some point during the school year, and even for the rest of the school year, I feel like we've coming together for the beginning of the school year has been such a positive experience for the staff, and it has reinvigorated everyone and has brought back that feeling of we are back in school and we are connected to each other.
I have a question, it's Marge. How, are we feeling confident, or as confident as we can be that our kids in general and have someone at home? I know it's not possible for all parents, but that our kids actually have an adult at home to help them with getting on and go through this process. And what will we do, or maybe are we doing something for kids who don't have that? They maybe either don't have internet or they don't have a parent at home that can help them with their work.
I can take that one. Right now, what we're keeping an eye on it, and it's not something that we understood that we were going to have to find these individuals. We would find them as instances. And so currently what we're doing is we have remote learning happening as a learning hub from the professional development room in the administration building. And so currently we have a handful of students who had issues of connectivity, or maybe the parent who is helping, maybe the grandmother, language barrier, those types of scenarios, or internet, that we have as a temporary basis until we can try to get those resolved, or until we come back to hybrid learning or some other dynamic. So it's not something we're throwing out as a program or an offering, but it's something that we had a couple of aides come over, and the teacher is still teaching them, but they're using our connectivity as well as the support from the aides to work with them in this temporary location.
Yeah, I guess my question is, and that's good. We didn't make a connection, and I don't know if any school district does, to parents to ask them what the situation is going to be at home. So we're kind of going by it as we find out. Is that what we're doing?
Well, we did a survey. I don't know, did we do 2 surveys, Derek, or 1?
Yeah, we did the parent intake survey to figure out, do they have internet? Do they have somebody at home to support? Do they have a quiet space for learning? And that was part of the survey that was gathered from parents during that time of reopening plan.
But it wasn't something that we know each parent sent in. I know you talked about that. I'm just wondering if we have a feeling of there's some kids out there that, don't have somebody at home to help.
Well, on the individual school basis, they are monitoring that, and
Okay.
if there's a kid not in attendance, we're taking attendance.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
So they're making the calls and doing the things at the home school, and that's how these handful of kids have popped up, is because the principals were making the connections to the parents and trying to find out. We had a couple that were avoiding. For example, there was a daycare who was saying they weren't asked or able to help out, but once the principal made the call to the daycare, and I commend Kristen Smith for doing so, she called and worked it out and just kind of explained. They said, okay, well, that's great. As long as we can keep the camera and the confidentiality of the kids there, we can make this work. So, we're working on them, before we get to the level of what we're doing over in the admin building, we're trying to exhaust all other options.
Wouldn't it be better to have those kids housed here, like in the multi-purpose room, instead of being at the admin building? There's a little more room, they can space out more, and then they may not necessarily hear things that they might not, that they shouldn't hear.
And that's something that we're trying to, and we'll be discussing these things continually with the union, because there's exposure concerns as well, with kids being in at this time. So that's something that, we are doing a little give and take, because that was the initial thought. But in collaborating and doing a little bit of a give and take with the concerns about safety, on the teacher level, that was the compromise we came up with. But yes, we definitely did think of that.
So you do have a number of children that don't have internet, and those are the ones that you are bringing in, correct? Is that what you're saying?
It's a combination. It could be internet, but yes, there's some that are like that. Or it could be, homeless, or it could be, a
So you
grandparent.
do have, you're keeping track, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You're keeping track.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I think they shared a lot of great information. I do want to give a couple of the obstacles that we're encountering and we are aware of. And one of them is connectivity. And we're currently working with AT&T to increase our broadband. And so right now we're hitting some glitches, but we're doing some Band-Aid approaches before the surgery date, so to speak. So we're doing some interventions. QNS is helping us brainstorm some ideas on how we can decrease bandwidth use while we are doing remote learning and trying to minimize it because we are getting, every day we're getting some lagging or some issues like that. And so we're working on those. Chromebooks, we have a set that we did an order in early June that is still on back order. If we had those, our teachers are working with some older models right now, but as soon as we get those in place, we're gonna upgrade, and so there's, I think, approximately 350 still. We did get our first order, thank goodness, of Chromebooks that went to the kindergarten students that are touchscreen as well, because they're a little more tactile. But, I had an email on some connectivity issues. I went out there this morning, and I watched 3 fantastic teachers from homeschool collaborating and working together, and I saw the lagging for myself, and I was on the phone with QNS right away afterwards, and we were brainstorming and trying. At this point, we know we need the big surgery, but in the interim, there's some little things we're trying. For example, if this were connected hardwired, it might work better. So I talked to that teacher, and so we're testing a couple things to see if we can get adapters, because the Chromebooks don't have the Ethernet plug-in, but there are USB adapters for the Ethernet plug-in, and we're going to attempt that on a small scale. If it works, we might distribute some. It's a $12 piece of material so it's a reasonable intervention in the meantime until we do get the increased bandwidth. And we're also keeping an eye on our Wi-Fi spots to make sure they're still functioning. And so, QNS is on top of it, and where the communication is going. I know there's some senses of frustration out there. We are aware, and we're addressing them and staying on top of them.
I had heard, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I'm guessing that it is, I have the same issue with my work computer, that if a computer is idle for like 4 minutes, it's throwing them off the internet and they have to log back in again, which I get. If you're sitting there and you're watching the teacher and the teacher's explaining something for like 10 to 15 minutes, obviously kids aren't moving their mouth to keep the system up. Is there a way that we can go in and change those idle times? Because I know I figured out how to do it for my job.
Yeah, I haven't heard that issue yet. I'm not saying it's not happening, but Carol, Derek, and I, and QNS will all keep an eye on that to see if that, because they get the tickets coming in on everything. I'll touch base with QNS tomorrow and see if that's an issue or if they pre-established it that way. I'm not positive right now.
I have one more question, and it's kind of off of in the remote learning, but I don't remember. A couple of meetings ago, you made reference to the fact of special education kids and like the LASI classes. What are we doing about them?
The special ed kids right now currently are at home for the first couple of weeks remotely. In that time, Colleen Bergren has coordinated with the special ed coordinators and the teachers to communicate with them individually to see how much of their IEP can be addressed remotely. From there, they're making accommodations to see if we can still address them remotely, but if not, we're going to have to consider some type of potential in-person service, which we've discussed that from the beginning, that some profound disabilities will likely have to be in person in some way, and the lowest level English language learner students, as well as homeless. So we've talked about that for a while, but trying to coordinate that safely will probably be one of our hot topics tomorrow with the union, to say, you know, how can we service these kids, maintain our safety, maintain the social distancing, and all of that while fulfilling the IEPs.
Do we still have many classes in the district that are lab classes that rent our rooms?
There are 3 buildings. One is George Washington, which uses the annex.
Yeah.
There is Costello, and there is Edison. And they are, you know, they're anticipating coming the first couple weeks remote. I've been in contact with the executive director, as well as Colleen, who's been in contact with her directly for some time. They have several districts, and a majority of the districts are doing some hybrid version. So she had to make kind of a decision to say, you know, I have to do something as a co-op. And so what they decided to do was to come back in a hybrid manner in some in-person. So that's set to kick off, I think after late September 7th or 8th. 7th or 8th, somewhere around there. And so when that does take place, you know, and they may adjust as well. You know, there's a lot of individuals who are still beginning, but maybe switching back to remote. So, but in the meantime, they are set to come in after that, and we're exploring entrances that kind of minimize the passing. She assured me that everyone will have their, you know, masks, and if there are little individuals with special needs that can't wear the mask, that we're going to try to at least put the face shield and make sure that there's minimal traffic happening, you know, as possible.
I'm sorry, can I just say Vito joined the coordinator told me Vito joined the meeting, I think at 7:11, so just saying.
Okay, for the record, yeah.
Okay. Moving on with public comment, Char.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Carol.
Good evening. For anyone joining the meeting via telephone, you will automatically appear on our list of meeting attendees. During public comments, the meeting moderator will call out the last 2 digits of your phone number in the order they appear in the meeting. At that time, if you wish, when the last 2 digits of your number is called, you will be able to make a public comment. *6 to unmute yourself. If you don't say anything when your number is called, we will wait 5 seconds before continuing on to the next number. Anyone wishing to make a public comment will have 3 minutes to speak. After the 3-minute mark, you will be alerted that your time is up, and you will then be returned to the meeting. Anyone joining this meeting must remain muted outside of their designated speaking time. And for anyone using Google Meet, please check the chat box for the moderator's instructions on making public comment. So I'll start out with one. Yes?
I'm here. Sorry about that.
I have you at 7:11 signed in.
Yes. Yes, and then I went to unmute it and I hit end. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so I do have a public comment on Joanne Schaefer. Good evening, board. I do need to tell you that remote learning has gone rather well for opening. I see our staff has worked very hard. Things in the system need to be worked out fast. To be kicked off system at least 15 times today is 15 times too much. I would also like to mention I will be filing a complaint regarding the FOIA request I filed 2 weeks ago and had no response at all. Have you read all the policies you are approving tonight? Why do we need to hire a parent liaison now? Is there that big of a problem with communication? I think we have a lot of communication from teachers and don't need hand holders. My last comment is regarding public comment and board comment. Why is it that the entire 7-minute letter of Ms. Rodriguez is in the minutes and the response from 2 board members, as well as letters submitted by the public during public comment, are either edited or ignored? I believe 2 board members read and submitted responses to Mrs. Rodriguez's letter, and I do not see them in the minutes. I do not want to go to the Attorney General. Don't make me and others go to that degree. Please open meetings for public attendance. If staff and admin are able to get together, why exclude the public? Social distancing is easy to accomplish in GW's multi-purpose room. please let's do it soon. And that was all that had written in. Pat?
All right, starting with public comments via the phone numbers, I will read off the area code and then the last 2 digits of your phone number. Please unmute yourself and speak if you wish to at that time. Starting with 708, ending in 03. Next will be 708, ending in 08. Next will be 708, ending in 21.
Can you hear me? This is 03. Hello?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay, this is Joanne Schaefer, and I wasn't going to say anything, except, please, when are you going to open the meetings to the community? Listening on the telephone, I could hear, is Carol Baker, was she on the phone or was she at the meeting? Hello?
It was on the phone.
She was on the phone. That's why I could hear her extremely well. Same thing with the gentleman who did the presentation on remote. We cannot, Chris, you might as well say nothing, because we out here cannot understand more than every 25th or 30th word. Can't understand you. Can understand Marge a little bit. I thought it was Sharon that might have said something. If Winifred said anything, you cannot understand. You're running a closed meeting to the public. You've got to open it up and get it into the cap at George Washington so your public can understand what you're talking about. I hope you get the message. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Okay, next on the list will be 708, ending in 30.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello. This is Tom Weiner, parent of Costello. And all I got to say, I'm going to be brief. The remote learning so far, from my experience, has been running pretty smooth. There are a few minor glitches, but other than that, the teachers that my son has, they've been doing a great job. And I'm sure the whole staff at Costello and hopefully all the other schools are doing a great job. But right now, it's going good. A few minor glitches, and that's it. And let's keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up will be 708, ending in 49. Next will be 708, ending in 66.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi. All right. Good evening. I want to speak to the board tonight in regards to the recent arrest of former McCook Mayor and Cook County Commissioner Jeffrey Tobolski.
I'm
For
sorry.
those
Sorry.
can you hear me?
For the
Can you hear
record.
me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Just state your name for the record.
Earl Johnson.
Thank you.
Good evening. I want to speak to the board tonight in regards to the recent arrest of former McCook Mayor and Cook County Commissioner Jeffrey Tobolski. For those of you listening to this meeting tonight from our community, Mr. Tobolski was a big supporter and the 7th largest campaign contributor to the PSE School Board majority members, Jorge Torres, Winifred Rodriguez, Olivia Quintero, and Vito Campanile. With the arrest of Mr. Tobolski, I'm asking you, as a District 103 taxpayer, if you will return the $975 in now tainted campaign cash you hold in your political coffers. I'll also go ahead and ask if you'll be returning the $1,875 that you received from a company, named Renovation Associates, Inc., which was your fourth largest campaign contributor. This company is owned by a man named Simo Cornetta, also under investigation, who was arrested, charged, and pled guilty for assaulting a woman and was closely associated with Mr. Tobolski and ironically hired on by President Torres a few years back to work in our district. If you're not going to return this money, please explain to the community why you're not going to do so, because on an ethical level, this stinks to high heaven, and as school board members, you must set an ethical standard for your district and constituents to follow. I'll remind you again that the FBI and IRS, among other government law enforcement agencies, are looking around and watching what's going on and accepting this cash and keeping the company of these individuals that have been charged, convicted, or under current federal investigation doesn't do anything more than draw their attention not only to you as board members, but our district as well. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, Earl.
Okay, the final option on our list is 815 ending in 08. All right, there appears to be no one else volunteering for public comment.
Okay, moving on with year-to-date financials. The financials are attached to the agenda for the public. Moving on with consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I would like to have the minutes removed and the bill list. I will make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Call the roll.
What are we voting on?
So we're voting on the consent agenda minus the minutes and the bill list.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanella.
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez. Oh, okay, I'll skip her for a minute. Shannon Johnson.
Yes.
Margie Bissett.
Yes.
Sharon Anderson.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Winifred. We are voting on the consent minus the minutes and the bill list. Okay? Yes.
Yes.
George Torres.
Yes. Comments?
Yes, okay, so,
Are you commenting on that or?
on the minutes, right?
in a minute.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion first?
No.
Oh, you're just making, if you're having a discussion and then you can.
Okay.
So, my question is, and to Joanne beat you to it, is that, I actually was not gonna make any comment at the last meeting until I saw the minutes had the full 7 minutes of the statement made by Winifred. So, I was really shocked when I got the board packet and saw that my statement and Shannon's was missing. So I called Sharon, I asked her, and she said that Vito said to take them out. Well, I feel like a couple of things. First of all, the secretary at the board has no jurisdiction over that. Sharon sends the minutes to him, or whoever the secretary is, as a courtesy to check for corrections, maybe a wrong time, or somebody made the motion, somebody seconded. He does not have the right, no board secretary has the right to edit the meetings and take information out. So I would like to see that our comments put in, because now I feel like we've been discriminated against. I want to know, any board member can get the statement in, but mine or Shannon cannot be. So I would like to, I don't know if Shannon may have something to say, but I would like to move that we approve these minutes as corrected by inserting both statements into them.
And echo the same thing, same exact question. And I know that I had asked Chris about it and you had referred it. Have you heard anything back?
Yes, basically, there's nothing illegal about the exclusion of it.
And there's nothing illegal, based on the board secretary, has the right to just eliminate.
So minutes, the question I was asked of me is, what do minutes have to be verbatim? They do not. The statute doesn't require verbatim minutes.
I understand that.
Right. I have no idea as to what the difference is between the two, and I'm not gonna try to figure that out. All that, the question I was asked is, do minutes have to be verbatim? No, they do not.
Okay, so then my question is, why were we discriminated against? Well, our statements were not put in, and that was allowed to happen. And the board secretary doesn't have, no board member has the right to call the superintendent secretary and give them a direction. That's your job. You're the only one. Now, you can say, people can call and ask for a favor, they can do that. But to tell someone to take that out, and so while Vito's on here, I want to know why he discriminated against me. I want to know why my statement can't be in, and I want to see that changed. So we had a problem putting in the other one, but now we're not putting our statements in. You have to be fair. You can't do one and not the other.
Illegal, in full transparency and in showing fairness across the board, they should be included. I mean, you don't have to agree with them, and I'm sure many people don't. However, they should be included, because ethically and morally, that is being transparent. So what was the reason why they were not included?
Is that accurate?
Fortunately, this is just going to bring more problems to the district, because, as was stated earlier, a lot of outside agencies are looking into what's going on with the district. You want positive interactions with our district, you want that to shine, and we are doing good things, but you know what sells the bad things. And if the word is going to be getting out, and things are already in motion for discrimination and whatnot, so it's not okay. It's an embarrassment is what it is.
I'm going to repeat my motion again, that we approve these minutes with the insertion of my statement and Shannon Johnson's statement.
That's a motion.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. It was first by Marge to amend the minutes to include the statement, seconded by Shannon. Okay. Vito Campanelli.
What was the motion? It broke up a little bit.
The motion was to amend the minutes, including the statements for Shannon and Marge.
Okay. No.
Ed Rodriguez? No. Shannon Johnson?
Yes.
Marge Davis? Sharon Anderson?
Yes.
Olivia Quintero?
No.
And George Torres?
No.
Okay, so my question now will be to the attorney, who do we contact about this? Because obviously, I have a gripe with Vito for taking it out, and the rest of the board members for being extremely unfair. They don't have to like it, but that's not right. You pick, but you put one in, and so I want to know, why is he discriminating against us? And I need to know, who do we contact to complain about that? Because I think we have a legitimate complaint. You just don't put one board member's full statement in, and then the statements that were read by two of the board members, not in the majority with the rest, theirs are left out.
I just, like I said, the question asked me was, minutes have to be verbatim.
That's not a good question, because you're absolutely right, they don't have to.
But, as far as who you're contacting, because you're not necessarily speaking as the meeting act violation, you're alleging more of a discrimination.
Yeah.
So I'd have to,
Would you please? Yeah, because I'm not gonna let this go, and I'm gonna suggest that from now on, the board secretary doesn't have that, where if they would go to a class, they would see that. I tried to talk to some someone from IESB, but who I needed to talk to wasn't there. Because that simply, and I want the minutes to state that I voted, that this happened, and that's the way I brought it up.
Okay, we'll go.
You also have to forward the bill.
Yeah. I'm
sorry. So that means that motion failed, but you still have the original minutes.
Okay.
Approval of the regular minutes, now that's on the agenda. That's still there. Without the amendment, so you have to, somebody comments that. Her amendment was her motion was amending this motion to approve of the statement that failed. But you still have on the agenda the regular minutes of the July 28, 2024.
So we have to make a motion for that?
So motion to approve the original minutes
Right,
of
I
July.
know what you're doing. I'm just saying this is still on the agenda.
So now you need to make a motion to,
But didn't you take 2 items off the consent?
we did, we voted on the amended motion that Marge made, now we need to vote on the original motion.
Okay. So we had a first and a second with.
That was for the
That was
amendment.
for Marge's amended motion, right. Now we're dealing with this motion. Regular minutes of the July.
Okay, well, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
No, you're just doing A1, just the regular minutes of the July 28th, 2024. Because remember, that one was pulled,
Right.
Marge pulled that in the board bill. So that's A1 that you're.
Okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
No.
the approval of
The
minutes.
approval of minutes, 8-1, the regular minutes of July 28, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? I'm second. Roll.
Winifred Rodriguez.
Yes.
Shannon Johnson.
No.
Marge Judith. No. Sharon Anderson.
No.
Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanelli. Vito.
Yes. Yes.
George Torres.
Yes.
Now you have the next item that you put with the board bill.
Yes. I had two questions. The first one is on, I noticed that on the bill list and on the special list, we have, a charge, and it's more of an explanation, I'm just looking for an explanation, for a large amount of money, 48, whatever, to purchase computers. And I know, from CDW, I know you said that we put a big order in because we needed them for kids. So I guess I'm wondering, when we got the information about QNS, in there, it talks about us purchasing our computers through them. So I'm wondering why that didn't happen. You know, the bill list actually says CDW, and it doesn't say QNS. And so I'm looking to clarify. I don't disagree that we need computers, because you said we don't have enough for our kids. I'm wondering why that happened that way.
That round was ordered prior to them beginning, the 157, and those ones we do have.
Okay.
The back order, and let me, I want to say this with a little bit of hesitancy, because I want to cross-reference with QNS to make sure, that all this is accurate to what I'm saying, because I know that it would say QNS through the second order, which we did, which I know went through them. So if I can do some
Yeah, I appreciate it, yeah.
and then respond to you tomorrow.
Yeah, because we do have on here, and there, what they gave us, a cost of over $100,000 for computers. And, I was just wondering the difference between the Chromebooks and that large amount of money.
Yeah, that
So
one,
you're gonna get back to us on that?
I will, but I do know that this 157 are the first order that already has come in. So
Right.
I believe it was done before they started. And that was done during the school year, so they knew there was gonna be back orders, and then the other one was done in June sometime,
Right,
so.
'cause one of them is on here for $3,000, and I'm not gonna open up the other one, you'll see it on both of them. There's a charge on the bill list and on the special bill list. The other question I had has to do with the Cloverleaf, and I went back and checked. Cloverleaf, of course, supplies the milk, and in the past, that check was, handled through Preferred Meals. The bills were sent to them and they charged us because they brought out the milk. And now since, July and August, we have a Cloverleaf on here. So I guess, my question is, has that changed that now we pay the dairy directly? Here's what I want to avoid, not paying the dairy, paying the dairy and then paying Preferred Meals. So if that process has changed, if you could just check to make sure it's not a double bill, and again, let us know if that's something new that, and maybe it has to do with it has to do with a lot of things, it's just that, that didn't show up before.
Sure, I'll look into that as well.
Those are my questions.
Okay, so we got a first and a second for the.
Okay, so, did I make a motion? Yeah, to make your motion to approve the building.
Okay,
I'll make a motion. Well, he's got, can you say it? No?
okay, well, looking for motion to, bill list as presented under the consent agenda.
Yeah, I don't know if it makes a difference, I pulled both of them off, the bill list and the special one.
So you can do what?
I don't care if you can I combine them, just both bill lists, I just don't want to.
I thought we already voted on the
We already
one.
voted on that.
We already voted on the approval of minutes.
I pulled both
She
bill
had a
lists
question
off.
about the milk and the,
Right.
computer purchase.
And I don't care if the motion says both of them, just so that it's clear that we're paying
And we are
both bill lists.
bringing both bills, so.
Your motion, are you making it for approving
Approving the purchase of computer equipment and the milk purchase.
So
No.
B one
B1 and 2.
B1
Yeah, B1 and 2.
You can do both B1 and 2. So that somebody is there.
I know. I just want to make sure we pay the bill, that's all.
Okay. Motion to approve bill 1, 8, and 2. Do I have a motion?
B1 and
B1
B2.
and 2.
Yeah.
Yes, I said B1 and 2.
I think Olivia got the first.
Do I have a second?
Winifred, okay.
Call the roll.
Ken Johnson. Yes. Marge Jubicek.
Yes.
Sharon Anderson. Yes. Olivia Quintero. Yes. Vito Campanelli.
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez.
Yes.
And George Torres.
Yes. Motion passes. So we had on the table the original.
So we're fine, yeah. So now we're on 9, action item, correct, yeah.
Action item 8. Yep.
All right, looking for a motion to approve to amend the current school year 2020-2021 calendar to incorporate the state declared holiday of November 3rd and remote learning planning day as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a quick question. Chris, I noticed that next week you guys have on here pin night.
Yes.
Are you guys, how is it gonna
Remote,
work?
it's gonna be done remote, the principals are handling it, and designing presentations and some opportunities for Q&A.
So will it be like through Zoom?
Yes.
Or, okay,
Google,
I'm sorry,
yes, Google Meet.
Okay, so parents will be given like a login into their classroom. Like,
And there's some variation for building that they're doing, but yeah, some are doing some recording, so there's different variations that they're communicating out to their respective families.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Marge Jubicek.
Yes.
Sharon Anderson.
Yes.
Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanelli.
Yes.
Fred Rodriguez.
Yes.
Shannon Johnson.
Yes.
George Torres.
Yes. Motion passes. for a motion to approve the creation of one parent liaison position for school building for a total of 6 parent liaison positions to be paid out of Title I at the rate of $50 an hour, 5 hours per day. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Winifred got it, that, she seconded, Vito, thank you.
That's okay.
You got it?
Pick it up. So, we all know the title's not on the ending well of money. It's a specific grant, and you only get so much of it. So what are we no longer paying out of title that we can afford to do this? Because obviously something had to go.
The library, it's, the exact same amount, there were 6, I'm replacing with 6, these ones, I believe did receive benefits, these ones I'm looking at 5 hours a day. So it should be we kind of costed it out rough, approximately from $130,000 that was prior being spent to about $100,000 per amount of people.
This person's not getting benefits?
Correct.
Will they be, able to join the union? They don't remember the exact.
I don't put these positions into the union. That's something that would be done, correct me if I'm wrong on that, Alicia. We wouldn't insert them into the union.
No, but there was specific wording in the AID's previous contract as to how much, as to what aides qualify for the union. Like, you only work 2 hours a day as a lunch aide, you didn't necessarily qualify.
I believe it's 30. I believe.
That's what
I believe.
Questions, first off, it says that and at some point, I just want an explanation from you about why we need this. But specifically, it says a parent of a District 103 student. So, I guess I'd like to know why. And more than that, does that job end then when they're no longer parents? So, for instance, it says qualifications, you have to be a parent of a District 103 student. So if you're no longer, and that's my question, if you're no longer a parent of a District 103 student.
Marge. I have to relook at that.
It's the first thing. It's the first bullet. So my question was, well, if you hired a 6th grade mom over here at the middle school, and she can only work 3 years, and then she's, so that was something I needed clarified. And I certainly understand the dual language that we could use, but I guess I'm looking to get what was your thought process in putting this together, and then to peg it with a $15 an hour salary, which I don't know what we haven't heard about the contract, but I didn't, of the aides, are the aides starting at $15 now? Or does it even matter? It didn't matter in your mind, so I guess.
Yeah, this one, so.
I guess you have to sell this.
First off, the parents of a District 103, staring me right in the face.
Okay.
I did not anticipate that being on there, and I must have missed that. I don't know, so for that I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
I would amend that and not have that as a requirement.
Okay.
Correct. The idea of it, just going off the basic idea, why do I believe that this is an important position? Bilingual is a huge part of it, and what's happening at the building, especially with those who do not have a bilingual speaking secretary, is that we're scrambling for parental needs with our non-English speakers. So they may pull a teacher, then a teacher may be saying, well, you know what, I got stuff to do, or they're having an aide and they're getting out of jobs. It's getting a little sloppy, and a lot of individuals were doing this, but it was coming out of their job description. And it's a high need. It's an absolutely high need, especially now with trying to communicate with parents on how to access remote learning, how to access social emotional support, and different dynamics like that. With 75% Hispanic population, many of them, especially at the parent level, have some language barriers. I felt it was something that this community really needed. Cancel amount, $15, was the amount that I was looking at. You know, the minimum wage is going to be there soon. I wanted to just get it there, and not have to make these adjustments throughout the time. You know, 5 hours, that is flexible in scheduling, so that you have a pin night, the principal has the, kind of authority to adjust their schedule to maybe be 2 to 7 or 3 to 8, so that they can help coordinate, facilitate, and just really get the parents involved. I feel like there's quite a bit of a barrier, you know, in language to help get them incorporated, to reach out, to feel comfortable and confident. So, you know, definitely looking for someone bilingual in these positions, and looking to just create a little bit better community.
Wait a minute, you said that when I asked what was removed for title, for being paid from title, you said the library.
Correct.
For the library aides weren't paid out of title money,
They weren't. Shouldn't have been, I don't think.
But
They
did
weren't.
that happen? Because they should be.
Yeah, I'm not positive, to be honest, and that was,
I'm kind of surprised they didn't.
yeah.
So will this person also be working kind of with Ruby sometimes?
Yes, for the BPEC, I believe I got that in there.
Right. When you say Title I and Title III, so she's kind of, or he, whatever, would be working not only with the building principal. And I don't disagree with the need for bilingual. We need to get parents, we need to have parents understand what's going on and to be able to help. There's a lot of, I'm hoping there's going to be some training, because we're asking a lot of that person. I just, sure that we are not starting a person here at this entry level at $15 an hour, that all of our school secretaries make at least that.
I don't know.
I think it would be really sad if we brought in a liaison to do the job, and we might have a school secretary that's not making anywhere near that. I think to be fair, we need to look at that. I'm not disagreeing with the position. I understand that, and it's grant funded. I just think that could be an issue.
Being that it is grant funded, I'm assuming you're gonna make the people aware that it may not carry over to next year, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of those dynamics that, you know, it have opportunities. I would definitely, if I were going to eliminate positions, make sure we did it within the appropriate laws and parameters that were afforded.
Well, they're not in the
And
union though, so these people wouldn't be in the union. So,
Right.
So
Yeah.
they're at will employees, but I think it's only fair to be transparent in that,
Yeah.
hey, if the money's not there from the grant, or are you planning on absorbing the cost through the district?
I mean,
I'm saying this for next year, they say, you know what, Title I, we're cutting it by $130,000. Well, the most sense would be to cut these positions, right? So would you be prepared to absorb that cost for these positions in that case? Or, I'm saying, be transparent to these people, saying, you know what, if funding changes, it's a crazy world where I think it's important that you let these people know that they're applying for a job that can be gone next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though they're at will, even though they're not, I think it's just a nice courtesy.
Yeah.
And my second question is, says participate in initial parent liaison training with parent. I know there's one for Morgan. Is that Morgan, or is that just a parent who called herself that?
I'm trying to think, is that a translator?
I'm not,
She's a parent liaison.
It's a parent liaison.
I've met her at open houses in the past.
So she's employed by the district?
I'm assuming, because it's her job is basically the same kind of, at least, 2 years ago, they were doing the same thing. He was at open house, he was helping people set up their skyward when they didn't understand it.
Was that our open house?
No,
Morton's open house, okay.
I think that's the only other time I've
Yeah,
ever
I don't know
heard
that there's any that currently exist. I think we have some DPAC members, and maybe that's,
It's who would, the training would be, that's all.
the training would definitely come from Ruby. Through the BPAC dynamics, as well as, just some administrative experience and guidance using this job description.
I just want the minutes to stick, so that there's no confusion that you're gonna take that off,
Yes.
District 103 parents.
Yes. Thank you.
And I really hope you take a look at that salary, so we don't insult some of our secretaries. Sharon Anderson.
Yes.
Vito Campanelli?
What was the motion again, sir?
The motion is to approve the parent liaison position.
Okay. Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez?
Yes.
Shannon Johnson?
Yes.
Mark Jubicek? Yes. George Torres?
Yes, motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn at 8:21. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Have a second. Motion passes.
Okay, wait,
We gotta vote on it.
Olivia Quintero?
Yes.
Vito Campanelli?
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez?
Yes.
Shannon Johnson?
Yes.
Mark Jubicek? Yes. Sharon Anderson? Yes. George Torres?
Yes. Motion passes now.
Okay.
How's the lunch distribution going?